Welcome back to the Exhilarate Leadership series, where we bring you conversations with leaders who inspire, challenge, and redefine the way we think about business and people. Today, I'm joined by someone who has spent over 17 years navigating the intersection of talent, leadership, and strategy. A people leader, mentor, and believer in the power of human potential. Mr. Dheeraj Tandon, CHRO and AVP at Vadilal Industries. So, welcome to the show. I'm excited about sharing the flow with you. Can't wait to hear about your experiences and insights. So, before we get into the series talks, I just wanted to get to know you better. So, I have planned for a rapid fire round, and if you're okay with it, we will be proceeding with that.
Sure.
Sure? Okay. So just let me know the first things that come to your mind on hearing the questions, on hearing the options. All right. Tea or coffee person?
Tea.
Okay. Mountain or beach?
Beach.
Morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Okay. So since you work at Vadilal, what's your favorite ice cream?
Cornetto.
Okay.
That is the
Vadilal
brand.
has Cornetto.
Yeah, this is the brand of that.
Okay.
So,
One book you'd recommend everyone to read.
one word,
One book.
one book.
Hmm.
How the Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie.
Okay, nice. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Adaptability and collaborative.
Okay. Biggest pet peeve at work?
Biggest
Pet peeve, something that you don't like at work.
unwanted politics.
Okay. One word people use to describe you that's actually true.
Sportive.
Sportive. Okay. So, if you weren't in your current position, what would you be doing?
Just explain one thing. What do you?
If you weren't in your current position,
Yeah.
say suppose you were not in the HR industry,
Yeah.
where do you see yourself working?
So I like the badminton most and all. I'm the badminton player.
Okay.
So I want to be the.
Oh yeah, you're saying
badminton
you
player.
missed out on a sports fan.
Yeah.
So, what's the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Very tough question. Pass on. Then next.
Okay. Which leadership quality do you admire the most?
Transformational.
Transformational. Okay. AI and HR, friend or foe?
It's a friend.
It's a friend?
It's a friend.
Okay. So that's a wrap for our rapid fire round. You did very well. I did not know that you were into sports, so that's nice to know. Also, something that you said about HR, like AI and HR. So, could you expand on that? Like, why did you say that AI and HR is a friend?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Since HR are supposed to be people supportive profession, right? So your major work revolves around people, and AI is something that automates, and it has like what we're trying to do is eliminate people touch, right, with automation. So why do you say that?
No, if you see here the HR, earlier we used to do a lot of things without AI. Now after the AI intervention in the HR, there are a lot of things when we cannot imagine what kind of the analytics, what kind of the thoughts and all, which AI can analyze on the real time.
Right.
And there are a lot of upgraded skills can be demonstrated, because if you ask the HR doing that, the traditional HR things and all can be eliminated, and the HR professional can focus more on more the high skilled and upgraded skills
Right.
things and all in the AI. So that's why I used to tell that the AI is a very useful, and it is a big friend of that the HR professionals and all. Obviously there is a 20% of the time we have to spend with the emotions and all the other things and all. Definitely we will be handling on a one-on-one sessions, but by and large there are the high things on the analytics, real-time things, and which human brain cannot imagine those things and all, we can get in the AI
Right.
HR.
Yeah, makes sense. So, you worked across very diverse industries, right? From automotive at Meritor to manufacturing with JK Organization and CG Power and Industrial Solutions,
Yeah.
and now nearly a decade in FMCG. So, what attracted you to the sector? You have stayed in FMCG for fairly a long time. So, what is it that that has attracted you to stay and work and continue working?
First of all, when I see intentionally, I have diversified my experience and all. Earlier, when I have worked in the electrical company,
Okay.
that is the Crompton Greaves and all, which has given me the lot of operation and manufacturing thing and all. Then I moved to the hardcore HR, the service industries and all, JK Corp and all, which has given me the flair of the group corporate HR workings and all. Then again is that the automotive sector and then FMCG. So I would say that working as a HR professional, working in the multiple section, I mean multiple sectors in that the industry and all, it has given me a lot of confidence and all, how the industry works and what are the pulse of that the employees in different sectors and all. In last 13 years, I am into the leadership role of that HR with the FMCG company and all. Now, this is a very highly specialized stuff what I have gained in the past 13 years, how the business and FMCG and HR works and all. So, it has given me very hands-on experience and all, and to understand the people, their dynamics, and how to integrate HR with the strategic business things and all.
Right. So basically, it was the personal and career growth. FMCG has helped you there a lot.
Basic is the personal and career growth, because for individual, the individual has to understand how that the people behave in the different sectors and all.
Right.
So it gave me the holistic experience and all in the different sectors and all.
Got it. So the theme for today is reimagining work, workforce, and workplace. Keeping up with the theme, what does it mean to be part of the workforce of the future? What core skills, mindsets, or attributes do you believe will differentiate future employees?
If you ask me, for the future employees and all, two, three things are very important. One is the digital literacy,
Okay.
which is the skill is on the top priority. And then individual, those who are in the industry, in any sector or any profession and all, they should be digitally literate. The second point I would say is that the collaboration, the collaborative approach with the team and then peer groups and all skills and all is a very important, because the dependency of all the functions. I mean, if the operations, the dependency operation function is on the sales will give the demand, then operation has to manufacture those things and all. Similarly, when the product will go to the market, then the quality department has to check the qualities, and there will be the market complaints and all, which the quality department has to ensure these all the things and all. Similarly, the marketing has to ensure how he is going to penetrate that market with the different channels and all. So the dependency on the other functions is more. So every department should be working in a very collaborative ways and all. That is a very important. That is the second skills and all. And the third one is that the adaptability. How much you are adaptable towards the environment, towards the industry, towards the people, leadership. This is a very important skills that individual, right from the junior to the leadership role, people has to understand these all the things. And then fourth and last one, I would say the agile and progressive, because this is the dynamic world and very fast the change. The market is changing so fastly, and also everybody has to be very agile and progressive towards the market, understanding, learning the skill, reskilling the skills, how to de-learn and learn the new things and all.
Right. Sir, I noticed that you've been emphasizing on collaboration a lot, and me being an MBA student, we have like a lot of group projects to do, and we have to collaborate on a daily basis, and it becomes sort of difficult because everybody has like different personality types. So how is it what we can do on a personal day-to-day level to to emphasize this particular criteria collaboration? How do we what do we do so that this comes easy, collaboration comes easy, it becomes easier to work with people? And I'm sure as an HR professional, this is something you see, like people not collaborating well or collaborating well. What is it that works for people in terms of collaboration, even in organizations?
The most important point in the collaboration is the empathy. We have to
Okay.
understand that from the other's point of view.
Right.
If we want to be the collaborative and all, and if we are not understanding the pain points of the other functions or individuals and all, we cannot be the collaborative and all. So first is that the empathize the situations, and sometimes we have to compromise. If there are the two functions or two people and all, they have to understand what are the pain areas and all. Mutually they should agree and all, and then after the agreements and all, they can be collaborative. And the second point is the keeping the, in business sense, keeping the business supreme. Sometimes people will not be collaborative due to their vested interest and all individual, which is wrong. I would say when the people are working in the organization, our objective is, the business objective should be the supreme and paramount and all. And keeping the business objective as a paramount and all, sometimes it will be painful for them to be the collaborative, but they have to be collaborative and all. They have to understand. So the 2 points is the empathy and keeping the business as a paramount and all for the collaborations.
That's very insightful. I learned something new today, because the second point, empathy, is something that you can still work on, right? But the second point that you said, like, keeping everything else aside and seeing the business strategy or your business goal at first, that's it sometimes hinders with your personal values also,
Absolutely,
in terms of
because
collaboration.
lot of the conflicts and all used to happen. There will be a lot of ego clash and all. That is my personal interest, is personal interest.
Right.
We are not here to do all the personal interest stuff and all. We are working in the organization for the common goal, and then business is the supreme and paramount and all. So that we have to see from that angle.
Right. So, moving on, given the increasing emphasis on skills rather than the formal degrees, what strategies should HR leaders adopt to effectively assess and unlock talent in an AI-driven environment? So this has also come from my peer groups. So a lot of my friends, when I was going for an MBA, all of them were like, they like it. I mean, they're gaining a lot of knowledge working. So they were not very pro MBA. Like, I know there are two sets of people. Some people are pro MBA and some people like to gain knowledge from working. So, but I know there's a huge spectrum of people who value skills from working rather than, degree. And this trend is being seen in HRs also. So what do you have to say about that?
I would say that moving forward, and unfortunately, in a lot of industries or the companies and all, the culture or the things has not changed. They will see that the formal, and sometimes they will be biased, seeing that the formal degree and all, they will biased with the person who is having the hands-on experience and all. So moving forward, and I would say in next 5 to 6 years, definitely it is going to be the game changer, and where there will be the assessment will not be based on that the ladder designation and degree and all, but that will be based on the skills and adaptability and all. How much? So for that, these are all the new projects, gig projects, small projects where people will be proving themselves and all for the 30 days, 90 days, 120 days and all, and they will be giving valuable additions and all. So moving forward, I would say the industry will not going to evaluate individual based on their experience in the industry, but they will be evaluating what kind of the quality, creativity, quality work in the minimal time and all they have performed and all, they are going to evaluate on this. So in that scenario, definitely the formal degree from the different institutions and all, the weightage and all, it's going to be less, and more weightage and all will be on the skills and hands-on experience and all. Definitely it will come.
Okay. Moving forward with the discussion along the similar lines, bridging the gap between academia and industry remains a challenge. What do you consider the most effective approaches to ensure graduates are truly ready for the workforce for tomorrow?
Very good point here. That the company, all the company, and many of the company, even in my previous company also, we have started the Immerse Talent program where we used to take the people for the long-term internships and all, and basing on the live projects working and all, we used to give the PPOs to them. The second thing is that the institution and industry collaboration and all, it's a very important that institutions and industry tie up, that exchange programs and all, where that the few of the professor can come and do the study in that the organization, and basing on that they can also teach students whatever the case studies and all. And I'm sure that because in Accelerate and IAMS, the professor, they are doing like this only.
Right.
But that is the systematic process is a very important. For example, when I was interacting one of the leadership person in the ITC, I came to know about the KITES program. The KITES and all they do for the freshers, and then freshers they will go for the 6 months training programs and all in the industry, where they will evaluate at the multiple levels and all, and based on their experience, based on their performance during that training programs, they give that the PPOs and all. So it works both ways, because industry will be getting very innovative thoughts from the young potential leaders, and young potential leaders also will be getting these all the exposures from the industry.
Right. That was a very detailed analysis. I mean, also, sir, like since just I also have a personal bias towards like 1 year program, since I'm also doing that. Since we don't get industry, internships, since it's a 1 year program, what do you recommend? Like, when you get when you recruit students from 1 year programs, what is it that you look for, particularly for these 1 year programmers?
I would say you should not use the 1 year program, because here in this 1 year program, it 2 years course is completely compressed. And what you guys are studying in the 1 year, it covers almost that the 2 years program.
Right.
And what I came to know about this program also, that the 6 months internship or on the job training program, that you guys have to go for the
Right.
6 months and all.
Right.
So this is a very comprehensive program, and I would say moving forward, company is not going to be biased on this, that whether he or she has completed 1 year program, because these are all depends on the program contents and then exposure, what exposure and contents they are going to get.
Right.
That is the most important, and it is not the time.
Right. That's very assuring. Okay, so starting a new job often involves ambiguity. How can organizations better support new hires in setting clear expectations and navigating this uncertainty in their early stages?
The most important part is the 90 days onboarding.
Right.
If anybody is very much comfortable, and if the onboarding is the proper in 90 days, the longevity, if individual is going to work for 90 days effectively, then the longevity and kind of the experience he will get, it will be the long lasting for him. And the contribution which he is going to give to the organization, it will be more. So I would say the 90 days is a very important. We have to, the industry are focusing on the effective onboarding process, mentor mentee programs and all, buddies program, where the individual should be very comfortable to share any things, any doubts in the organization, because as a new joiner, always the people used to come with a lot of innovative ideas, different things and all. And in the 90 days, if we are going to take those ideas, things and all, they will be very motivated and all that somebody is listening to us, and not only at the level but junior level, but also at the top level. So what we did in my organization, earlier organizations here, we allowed these all the youngsters and all those who have joined, they should not take the appointment with the CEO. They can directly go and talk to the CEO and all, whatever the points and all. So this was the good and the game changer and all, to get the innovative ideas and all. So I feel that these all the things should be in all the organization, at least for the 90 days. We should give that the flexibility to individual and all, and they will be learning the good way and all. The second thing is giving too much stuff and all during the 6 months time, when the confirmation, before confirmation of the individuals and all, we have to give at least 30 days or 40 days small projects to them. And that is the nothing, it's the gig projects and all, where they can work and complete the cycle of that innovative ideas and all. And this will give lot of satisfaction to them, that they made that the contribution and all in the 60 days or 65 days, and which will be the very, very motivating factor for them, and the retention will be high.
That's a very interesting answer. Also, sir, I noticed that back a couple of hours before, when you were addressing when you were having that talk with my peers, you advocated this idea about removing the ladder, like ladder system in
Exactly.
industries, and what you just said, like reaching out to the CEO directly, kind of resonates with that. Could you like expand more on that
Yeah,
idea?
yeah. If you see here, the culture should not be the bureaucratic culture and all in the organization. I mean, when I saw that many of that the leaders and all, they will say my doors are open 24/7. Anyone can come, and but it doesn't work like that, because these are all the theoretical things, but practically demonstration and all is very important. So scrapping that the bureaucratic structure and all, when it comes to the different ladders in the I would say that the levels of that the jobs and all, it should scrapped in the systems and all, and everybody should be the equally treated on this. Not they should not put that the batches of that the designations and all. So I mean to say the flat organization, which is a very important to to leverage the creativity and innovations and all. The creativity innovation kills if we are working in the bureaucratic kind of the setups and all. Any junior candidate can come, and they can give their ideas and all to the CEO, functional heads and all. There should not be any barriers and all. So
Right.
I would say, moving forward, definitely the ladder kind of organization will be replaced by the lattice kind of the organization structure.
Right.
And this way the creativity and what we are looking for, the progressive and agile working and quick decisions and all, will be easy for the organization.
Sir, actually, I can see this idea very well sitting well with startups, but you know, in bigger organizations, don't you think like CEOs or upper leadership have their own responsibilities? Do you think they would have the time and like you know energy to cater to the lower level employees? And like
I do agree. Why? Because these are all the legacy issue.
right,
It's not a time, it's a
Okay.
mindset and the legacy. If somebody has decided and all, no, I have to, and here also what I mentioned, the business is supreme.
right,
So if somebody has decided to move forward and go and give these all the stuff and give the time to the youngsters and all, definitely they can take out that the time from their busy schedules and all. Again, it's the legacy issues and all which need to be sorted out. And I would say there are the few leaders in the organization and industries, those who used to demonstrate. If they are 10 leaders, out of that 3 or 4 leaders used to demonstrate these all the things and all. So they can set the examples, they will be the role model and all for that, and by seeing them and all, definitely it will come in the systems and all. It will take time and all, because in India there are a lot of legacy organizations and all. Forget about the startups and all, but established organizations, the big companies also they have. Uh, I would just give the one example of the Marico industry. In the Marico, Harsh Mariwala, I was talking to Harsh Mariwala last month. I met him in Mumbai. Harsh Mariwala was telling that it was very painful for him to pass the baton to the CEO, and the family members of Marico, they told Harsh that this may not be possible. Harsh, you are doing the wrong thing and all. But he said, no, my son cannot be that the CEO of that company. I have to pick somebody else
Wow.
from that. And he did like that. And when he did, the business growth of the Marico transformed substantially. So this is a Marico. In Vadilal, it's my present company. Now the Vadilal is also going for the transformational process. Now here the transformation is that all the promoters, they step down, and now that the professional board and the professional people are taking care for the Vadilals and all. So these all the transformational things are happening in Indian companies as well, multinational as well. So I would say that in next 4 or 5 or 6 years and all, definitely it's going to be the big game changer and all of
Wow,
this.
that's very powerful.
Mindset, I would say legacy mindset and all, because the people, they resist to change sometimes.
Very well. So, I think we can move our discussion to AI since it's very relevant. And I think this podcast would be incomplete if we don't touch upon AI. So, some companies, including Walmart, Accenture, and PepsiCo, have started onboarding new employees using virtual reality (VR). So, from your perspective, what are the advantages and potential disadvantages of using VR to especially onboard new employees?
I would say this virtual reality VR is the excellent tool as
Right.
of now, because the agile, we are talking about the agile in terms of the recruitment, in terms of the flexibility, work life balance and all, because what I see when it comes to the remotest locations and all, people cannot commute immediately. Through the virtual reality and all, they can understand during the onboarding process, they can see the complete view of the company, shop floor, market, even they can interact with that. These are all the very useful tools and all, to some extent, initially, and they should do these all the things and all if there are the constant and all. But in the next way, we should not fully dependent on the VR only. But whenever they get time and all, after the some time of the 3 months or the 6 months and all, they should be invited to be present physically and interact and express their emotions and all, and understand the consumer insights on one basis. So there are the pros and cons, because advantages are there because onboarding will be quick. They can learn quickly these all the things. The induction, onboarding can be compressed from 90 days to the 15 days and all.
Right.
There will be the lot of cost optimizations in this scenario also. Unwanted expenses and all about the traveling and all can be cut short and all. And once they will be doing these all the things and all, understanding the things and all, and then they can come. But we should not rely on this 6 months, 7 months, or 1 year. He should be on the virtual ways and all, but he has to come, he has to interact sometimes and all. So if he is not interacting with the consumer and all, he will not be understanding their insights in depth and all. So there are the pros and cons for this.
I can't help but draw a parallel between this and the hybrid culture that all the corporates are incorporating. What do you have to say about that?
The hybrid culture and all, even during the session also, what I have mentioned here, some people used to say about that the work from home or work from the remote location. hybrid culture, I would say it depends on the industry to industry and also the level to level. If few positions we cannot compromise with the hybrid culture, but the few positions and all we must look for the hybrid culture and all. For example, is that one of the CMO, we were hiring one CMO, and then the CMO's availability and all is majorly in the Mumbai, Chennai, and the Bangalore. And moving this guy and all to that the other remote location and asking to onboard in that particular location, and it is very difficult. So then we decided, okay, no, we will not ask the CMO to move from his present place to that the next place, and he can work in a hybrid model and all. Sometimes we have to see, empathize, because their work-life balance also will be disturbed. They will not able to shift their family, their school-going children and all. It would be very difficult, and there will be the it's like a social shock for the family members, because one location to another location, they will lose their friends, and also these are all the things we have to understand in totality. And I would say hybrid model, position to positions, and for the industry or the sector to sector, we can take that call.
Right. And what's your take on HR? How should it be for HR?
I would say that HR, it's also with the hybrid kind of things and all. But in HR, I would say if the person should at least meet, and in other ways, I would say the HR people, when I hire any HR team members, I used to tell that the 3 months and all, you should be in that the plant and the market. You should not be based out of that the corporate office, and you will be roaming around here and there, understand the business, meet that the people, stakeholders and all, and come with the observations and all, so that they can understand. And it works two ways. One is that for the business improvement, and their understanding will be very clear, and the message will also go to the other departments also. That HR is also going to the market and the plant. They are not sitting and all in the corporate office.
Right, and that would motivate more employees
Exactly.
to. So seems like we're at the end of our questionnaire. But before we end, I think I'll just ask one more question, because I think it's very relevant. In your experience, what separates employees who thrive during bench periods from those who feel disengaged or unmotivated?
Can you reframe the questions?
So, like, there are two sets of employees, right? Or whenever we don't have enough projects in any organization, some people are put on bench, right? So some people feel motivated and they try to find more work projects and they work through it, and some people just sit through it, and like for 6 months they're just sitting. So how can HR create a positive mindset around these phases, when people are on bench?
If you see here, the process in HR, we say the SDP, the succession development planning.
Okay.
In the succession development planning, there are the 3 levels of the employees. One employee will be ready now. One employee will be ready to take up the role in next 1 to 2 years. And the third level is that the 3 to 5 years. So now, if that any employee who is not ready to take up the role, but we have defined his career plan and all, your career plan is that this, and in next 1 or 2 years, you will be in that position. So that is, he will be in the bench. Now, why it is going to take 1 or 2 years? Because he has to understand, he has to develop certain some sort of the competencies and all, which take times and all. So first of all, those who are sitting in the bench, they have to take it very positive, because sitting in the bench, it's not a bad thing and all. It comes with the new learning and opportunities and all, and they have the time. They have to take very positively. They have to learn the new skills and other things, or any other job related aspects and all, which is very important. So my suggestion to them is that always take it very positively when they will be sitting in the bench. I can understand sometimes the people, those who are not going from the top level and all, and sometimes they will feel frustrated and all.
Right.
So the people should be out, those who are on the top, those who are, for example, if somebody is getting retired and all, and the bench, the next person should take over that positions and all, and then management is having that, okay, this person who is getting retired and all will go for the extension for the 1 year and 2 years and all. It happens in that most of the organization. So we have to take the very harsh decision, or we have to take very strict decision and all. No further extension and all will be taken care, and this way the person will move to the next level. That is the movement in the bench. And those who are sitting in the bench for 1 or 2 years, they should take it very positively. They should learn that the process and all.
Right. Sir, I really appreciate the depth you brought to this conversation. Your experience really came through throughout the discussion. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up, do you have any piece of advice for MBA graduates like us, and people who would be taking on MBA? So, do you have any piece of advice?
The piece of advice is that wherever you guys, you people go, take all the situation in a very positive manner. Don't be negative for any thought of whatever the work you will be doing and all. Take it very positively, and if your mindset will be positive, then you are going to embrace and learn the new things and all. You will see the positiveness in each and every situations and all.
Okay.
The positivity is a very, very important. And my experience is, if I am the positive towards to any person or the process and all, similarly the vibes will work, and the other person will also be very positive about me.
Again, calling back, it's all about the mindset.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I think.
Thank you so much. Thanks.